Right off with the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by invocation by Pastor Motz. Ms. Vieira, you want to lead us in Pledge Allegiance?
Yes, absolutely. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Before we pray, let me just say thank you. It's a privilege for me to be here this evening to join with the community and to pray for our community and for our leaders. So thank you for the opportunity to be here. Let us take a moment to bow. Father, it is to you we look this evening, and I pray for your hand of guidance upon this community. Thank you for the joys that we're able to celebrate. Even thank you for the challenges that we have to walk through. Pray that you'd continue to give guidance to us as we seek it out, as we put our trust in you as the next steps for what you would have us as a whole become more and more of. God, I would pray for a spirit of unity to begin here tonight, continue to move throughout our community. I pray for healing over our community where hurts remain and division lines have been drawn. I pray you would give us a sense of trust in the goodness of one another, even as we seek to act in ways which are trustworthy. Father, I pray for your leading, that you would give us just the ability to walk in the right steps. And where we would tend to err, God, I pray that your hand would continue to guide us, restore our path, restore us to your path for us as a community together. God, I pray for this council in particular, that you would guide them, that you would give them the ability to lead with wisdom and integrity, with strength and with courage, that you would continue to enable them to guide our community to become a more whole and a more healthy and a better place for us to call home. So God, I pray for the decisions they would make tonight. I pray over their homes, their families, the neighborhoods they live in, as well as throughout the whole community, that you would continue to guide this town that we call home, Atwater, and continue to bless with your assistance. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Thank you, Pastor Motz. I'm sorry. Roll call, please.
Ambrose.
Here.
Kale.
Here.
Raymond.
Here.
Vieira.
Present.
Creighton.
Here.
You have a quorum.
City Attorney, report out of closed session.
Direction was given to staff, but there's no reportable action that was taken.
Subsequent need items.
There are none to report.
Approval of agenda as posted or as amended.
Actually, Mayor, I think we will need to amend the agenda because County Supervisor McDaniel will not be present today. So I believe we're going to continue to the next meeting or the next month. I'm not sure.
We'll continue that to the next meeting or month.
Yes.
Show that on the...
We'll show that on the minutes. Yes.
Thank you. So approval of agenda as amended.
Motion to approve the agenda as amended.
And a second?
Second.
Motion by Raymond, seconded by Vieira.
Ambrose.
Yes.
Kale.
Yes.
Raymond.
Yes.
Vieira.
Yes.
Creighton.
Yes. Comments from the public?
At this time, any person may comment at any item which is not on the agenda. You may state your name and address for the record. However, it is not required. Action will not be taken on an item that is not on the agenda. If it requires action, it will be referred to staff and or placed on a future agenda. To comment on an item that is not on the agenda, please wait until the item is read for consideration. Please limit comments to a maximum of 3 minutes.
Chief?
Good evening, Mayor and members of the Atwater City Council. I just wanted to come by. My name is Jeremy Ron. For a lot of you, we've known each other for a lot of years. I was fortunate to start with Atwater Volunteer Fire Department in the early 90s and have now been given the opportunity to be here as your division chief. So I just wanted to come by and say hello, as well as look very forward to working with your team as well as Chief Slate and Chief Suarez to make sure we're providing the best service we can for the city of Atwater. So I just want to say I'm back, and I'm excited to work with all of you. I already met with your city manager, and we're here to serve you under your contract as needed. So thank you.
Welcome home.
Congratulations, Chief Ron.
Anyone else like to?
Eric Lee, Mayor, Council, you're moving pretty quick tonight, so I won't hold you up at all. I've done some research on an ordinance. I know we've had this discussion before about what we can do with properties that are creating problems with gangs and other issues that are affecting our police department. And what I did is I researched Fresno's ordinance, and I'll give you a brief synopsis of it so I don't use up the full 3 minutes, I hope. What this is called is a management of real property ordinance. And what it does, and I'll read you a part of it, is just as the physical conditions of structures and properties within the city can constitute public nuisances, so can too the behavior of persons on properties within the city constitute public nuisances. The abatement of behavioral nuisances is as important to the city in its fight against blight and decay, deterioration, and crime, as is the abatement of other nuisances created by physical conditions. What Fresno did is they came up with an ordinance where they can attack these problems using a series of warnings and then fines. The fines will run anywhere from $1,000 up to $50,000. So when you have an apartment owner who's allowing his or her tenants to create problems, and you warn them to clean up or abate the problem and they refuse, you can go to subsequent levels of fining until you get to the $50,000. And I think that'll pretty much get anybody's attention. So it might be something, I know we've talked about this, it might be something that we can adopt in this city. It'll be a big aid to our police department and our code enforcement because it'll give them something solid they can use when there's continuing problems going on with properties, whether the landlord is an absentee landlord or he or she lives in another part of Atwater. But if you'd like a copy of this, I have one for you.
No, you go ahead and finish up. I'm going to comment on what you just spoke about.
Pardon?
I'll comment on what you had just spoke about. I don't need a copy of that.
Okay.
I'd like a copy.
I would too. Thank you.
Or through the
You
clerk.
can give it to me. Eric will make copies. Yep.
Thank you.
Mayor, real quick, Mayor.
Yeah, I just.
Mr. Lee.
Are you done, Eric?
This is the ordinance that was
No,
passed about a year
you're
ago,
good.
right?
I just want to make sure
Yeah.
you were done with your time.
Yeah.
Okay. What were you going to say, Raymond?
No, that was it. If this was the one that was passed about a year ago, it's been pretty effective.
Right. And just so you know, great idea. We're already on it. So PD's already started working on this. So you'll be seeing some changes with the police department here soon with that. So thank you very much for sharing that. That's why we didn't need a copy. They already have progress in that area. Right. Thank you very much. Any other member of the public like to come forward at this time?
Good evening. My name is Richard Johnson, 1675 Drakely Avenue. I'm here tonight to ask Lori Waterman if she is ready to turn our water back on. I know you told my wife that it doesn't matter how much we pay, you will not turn our water back on. Why is that? And also, you have proven that. When we tried to pay what the city said we owed, I used my SSI debit card, and it was not declined. You know that, Ms. Waterman, that whenever a card is declined, you get a receipt and you put it in the drawer, right? I would like to see that, if I can, please. Also, I would like to see that. The fact is, you are keeping our water off for your own personal reasons and retaliation. Public Works has told a few of our close neighbors that they are only their monitors are only being monitored. Their meters are only being monitored close to the Johnsons to try and catch them stealing water. This comes from our neighbors. They're right now. They've already been in the process of filling out paperwork. This is from neighbors telling us. So to try and catch us stealing water, who is telling you to keep our water off? We have a pretty good idea.
Any other members of the public at this time? Take a second. The attorney wants to make a comment on what Mr. Johnson just spoke of.
So Mr. Johnson, just so that we're not under
Richard, go ahead and sit down. You're not going to be allowed to talk, but
any kind of confusion, I'm happy to meet you. I'm happy to have the mayor be there, city manager be there, and you can bring anybody that you want. And if you come down and you pay your bill and what's due and owing, your water will be turned back on. So I'm making this statement publicly, so that, and you're welcome to bring anybody that you ever want. Just let me know what date and time. I will be there, the mayor will be there, the city manager will be there, and anybody that you want to bring can be there to watch the transaction go down. But you would be required to bring it current.
I really appreciate that.
thank you. Any other member of the public like to come forward at this time?
My name is Richard Miller. I live at 334 Silva Drive here in Atwater. I'm not only a resident, but I'm also a local pastor. My church is at 1280 Sierra Vista Street, Victory Baptist. And in the last meeting, the new water rates were proposed and approved. And I know that one of the gentlemen had a concern about senior citizens being on fixed incomes. And then also there was a gentleman who recommended fundraising. And what I wanted to present tonight is, and as I mentioned in the last meeting, I'm a novice. So I'm just presenting this and leaving this in your hands, but present that we do something like support a senior, where it just becomes an item line on the regular bill that we get for our water, sewer, and trash. And I know me personally, as a resident, as a pastor, I just like they do at Panda Express here in town, they ask you if you'll donate your change. I would have no problem, rounding off my bill, whether it's change or a few extra dollars every month, just to go to a fund to help out anyone who's on a fixed income like seniors. So I just wanted to present that since that was mentioned last month as a concern.
Thank you very much. Any other member of the public like to come forward at this time? Seeing none, public comment is now closed. Consent calendar.
Background information has been provided on all matters listed under the consent calendar, and these items are considered to be routine. All items under the consent calendar are normally approved by one motion. If discussion is requested on any item, that item will be removed from the consent calendar for separate action.
Sorry. Any member of the public or the council like to pull any items at this time? Seeing none, motion for approval.
Make the motion to approve the consent calendar.
I'll second.
Motion to approve by Raymond, seconded by Vieira. Call for the question.
Kale?
Yes.
Vieira? Yes. Raymond?
Yes.
Ambrose?
Yes.
Creighton?
Yes. Public hearings. Ordinance approving the Angel Commodities, Inc. development agreement regarding cannabis business pilot program, property location 240 Air Park Road, Atwater, California. Attorney White will take this.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. What you have before you is, again, the first of our development agreements associated with the cannabis business pilot program. This particular one is for 240 Air Park Road, and this is the first step in a multi-step process for approval, meaning that after this development agreement is approved, it will also have to go through a conditional use permit, which will look at the specifics of the site and so on. With that, the contribution, once they're up and running, which they would be required to do within 6 months of being granted the conditional use permit, would be $10,000 a month to the city, so $120 a year, or 5% of gross revenue, whichever of those numbers turns out to be higher. I will say, having done this in a number of other cities, I have yet to see hardly anyone ever pay the minimum amount, and so I would expect that those numbers would be exceed $10,000 a month. With that being said, This would be a 3-year contract for a micro business license type with a concentration from this business on manufacturing and associated distribution. And that lays the crux of it. I would say, Council, that one caveat is we have, as you know, as part of our budget plan to pay off our back debt and rebuild our reserves, this $10,000 a month and what we'll discuss and then the business to follow would not be considered reoccurring funds, but would otherwise be considered one-time funds. And the significance of that means that it would not go towards paying salaries, but rather would go off to paying our, off any debt that the city owes and building up a general fund reserve. With that, I'm happy to answer any questions that you have.
Council, have any questions, or do you want to wait until after public comment? I'll open it at this time to public comment. Anyone from the public can come forward at this time.
Good evening, Mayor, council members, staff. My name is Bart Behringer from Egley Commodities, and if anybody has any questions, I'm here to answer them for you.
Great. Thank you, Bart.
Adam Reed, 1520 Fruitland Avenue, Atwater. I was originally on the CDRC whenever the first iterations of this all took place back in May and June of 2017. And at that time, since the very beginning, I've advocated for a funding mechanism for youth education and prevention to be part of this. Originally, it was passed unanimously through the commission, and I believe the council also supported that unanimously too. For it to be included, since then that ordinances have been repealed because there were some issues with them, and we've got new, better ordinances in place. Part of those ordinances have never included, or the new ordinances have never included anything for youth prevention and education. So I've been trying to advocate to get that back on there. I spoke at the CDRC meeting. I know that they had another meeting that I was unable to attend last week. But the school is willing to participate in it. I think the school is the best choice because they have the children as a captive audience. There's no other group in town that can put together all those children and reach them. They're also the first line of defense. The teachers are the first ones usually that know if there's a problem with the child or if there's something going on at home. They see them every day, and they're aware of that. The city is the regulatory authority to protect public health, safety, and welfare. And I would say that this is a pretty, protecting our youth and educating them is a top priority. So, and I know that there is in the section 34019 of the Revenue and Tax Code, there is provisions in there for youth programs. They'll get 60% of the tax that's generated on the state level, but that is after it makes it through everybody in the state getting a cut of it. The board's going to be reimbursed. The Department of Consumer Affairs gets a cut. Department of Food and Agricultural, Department of Public Health, Fish and Wildlife, State Water Resources Control Board, Pesticide Regulation Department, State Controller, Department of Finance, Legislative Analyst Office, Labor Standards and Enforcement, Occupational Safety and Health, Industrial Relations, Employee Development Department. They all get their cut first, and then whatever's left, 60% of that, or actually I take that back, not 60% of that. From there, then it goes down. The UC system gets $10 million, $3 million to the Highway Patrol. Let's see, the Governor's Office of Business and Economic Development starts off at $10 million, but it caps out in 5 years at $50 million. $2 million more for UC San Diego, and then we get the 60%. So it's got to go through a lot of filters, and that just gets it to where the state level, the state school gets theirs, and then it's got to filter all the way through that. Very little of it's going to make it here locally. We need to do it on a local level to make sure that our children and youth are protected. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other members of the audience like to come forward?
Night, 3218 Northview Hack Road. I must have been asleep, but what does exactly ordinance number CS1002 say?
Attorney White? What does it say was the question?
Yeah, I want to know what that ordinance is, or you're going to introduce that ordinance. But
right.
The development agreement is that's the ordinance itself. So the development agreement. Okay. So basically, it's an agreement, but it becomes
that's going to become?
Yes.
That has not.
That's under consideration. It's not been, it's been voted on and approved by the CDRC, and it's for first reading of the council tonight.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Eric Lee. Okay, so from my understanding, the cannabis industry, the way we're going to tax them is through what we call a public benefit tax?
More or less.
Is that the only tax we're placing on them, or is there another tax that falls out of the public benefit? In other words, the public benefit is one tax, and is there another tax? Because what we're talking about here, number one, is offsetting our debt with these taxes. The public benefit tax doesn't address that. At least I don't, unless there's some place I'm not reading it, because it said the parties acknowledge and agree that the agreement and the cannabis business project confers substantial private benefits upon developer that will place burdens upon city infrastructure, services, and neighborhoods. Accordingly, the commensurate with the private benefits conferred on developer, the public benefit in consideration of the foregoing developer shall remit to the city as follows, and then you give the tax that you're charging. And then you go on the back page in Article 5, cities shall use the public benefit amount to pay for the impact on and maintenance or improvement of city neighborhoods and the existing level of service of city infrastructure and services to accommodate for the cannabis business project. That sounds to me like the money is spent on something other than going in a general fund and offsetting the monies we owe. Perhaps I'm not reading it correctly, but it seems like that's what it says. So if there's an explanation on that, I'd appreciate that. Thanks.
Thank you. Any other members of the public like to come forward at this time? Seeing none, we'll close the public comment period and bring it back to the dais.
Can I address some of the things so that there's no confusion when we go?
Attorney White's going to make a couple of comments on the public's comment.
So I think the question is if it's a public benefited amount, but I think the question is it's subject to any other taxes. Medical is not subject to taxes, or at least sales tax, but recreational is, and so it would still sales tax would still apply if it's recreational. Why does it have to go to debt? The city council passed a resolution. It was the previous council that any money that was derived from cannabis businesses would first have to go towards debt. So that was by an action of the previous council by resolution, and that was included in the documents that was provided to the state auditor in terms of when they reviewed and looked at us. Ultimately, this money is being brought in to offset the impacts both through whether it's educational, but largely through police force and nuisances, as well as trying to kind of eliminate a black market and making sure that it's going correctly. But how it's allocated kind of initially is a little bit different than where it kind of will continue to go and what it needs to basically repay. So.
Mr. Kale, do you have any comments? Pierre? Raymond?
Yeah, I just have a question for the city attorney. Just kind of touching on what Mr. Reed said. Previously, we did have a education component into it. Is that something we can look at adding, later once the 3 years is up and the debts, wherever we're at there? But is that something that we can look at a later date?
So I think it is something we can look at a later date. The issue that we have right now is this is part of the package that we submitted to the state auditor in terms of our ability to meet and kind of get rid of our debt. As worthy as those programs would be, I probably would recommend that we not adjust them at least until you get to the debt portion over, and you can maybe revisit them before you kind of go back into maybe restocking your general fund. But those are the kind of balances that you're going to have to maintain. But it wouldn't be my recommendation, as worthy as the programs are, to do it at this moment because we're dealing with a debt issue.
Okay. But it is something we can look at in the future?
Yes.
Okay.
All the council, you control it.
Mr. Ambridge, you have anything? No. I have a couple of comments. Specifically on the education part. Having a public works background, I think with our position the city's in right now, we don't have much money. I don't think that what's being asked for is hundreds of $1,000s, even tens of $1,000s. I think a small stipend, anywhere from $0 to $4,000 or $5,000 a year. But I think if I read into your comments correctly, that we as a community do want to reach out to the youth, because the youth we need to help guide them through as they move up through life. We do need to do better outreach on water conservation. We need to do better outreach on recycling. There's several things the city needs to do with the youth in conjunction with deterring them from marijuana consumption or smoking or other programs that we could get into the schools for little to no money at all to start getting that message out. Maybe we could collaborate with the school systems, the school district. I think there's a great opportunity there. And then as we have more revenue in the city, we could expand those programs if they're successful. But I do want to include, whether there's funding in these mechanisms here or not, but with maybe the next fiscal year that we start implementing some type of that. Mr. Kale, go ahead.
Yeah, I wanted to add on to what you were saying. I know in the Merced area in the last couple of years they've done a lot with that, and they have ran that through the Merced Elk Lodge, and it's not touching Atwater, and it really should. And so if you'd like to get a hold of me, I can work it so next year we can look at having, they have a very dynamic speaker that comes in and teaches kids not only marijuana but alcohol and other drugs too. And it would be a huge benefit to our children in and around this area.
So also, and City Manager Waterman just whispered in my ear that with our new police chief, I think that he's going to bring a wealth of knowledge to the table that we're not even familiar with yet. So I think when you see the toolbox get opened up there, that he'll be able to teach us a few things and be able to reach out to the youth. So with that, I'm looking for a motion on this to move forward.
You going or you want me to go?
Motion to approve ordinance approving the Eagle Commodities Incorporated development agreement regarding cannabis business pilot program, property location 240 Air Park Road.
Second.
Can you read the?
Can you repeat what the motion was?
Motion to waive the first reading and introduce ordinance number CS 1002, approving a development agreement in a form approved by the city attorney with Agley Commodities, Inc., Cannabis Business Pilot Program tracking number 04-262-18, property location 240 Air Park Road, Atwater, and authorizes and directs the city manager to execute the agreement on behalf of the city.
Call for the question.
That's what I meant. Yeah.
That's exactly what you meant.
That's what I meant.
Call for the question, please.
Raymond?
There wasn't a second.
Oh, yeah, Kale seconded it.
Yes.
Kale seconded that.
Kell second. Vieira?
Yes.
Ambrose?
Yes.
Raymond?
Yes.
Kale?
Yes.
Creighton?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Ordinance approving the Bang Mingo LLC development agreement regarding the cannabis business pilot program, property located at 1780 Bell Lane, Atwater, California. Attorney White.
So, Mayor and Council, this is very similar to the last development agreement you looked at and reviewed. The difference is this one would have a retail customer-facing component to it, in the sense that it would have dispensary as well as cultivation. So because of that, it has a graduated public benefit amount, because we anticipate when you're retail facing that there's going to be a more significant impact on the community in terms of nuisances and things that you have to deal with. So for that, under this arrangement, the city would receive $15,000 a month for the first year of operation. The second year, the city would receive $25,000 a month, and the third year would receive $4,000 a month. In all of these cases, or it's 5% of the gross revenue, whichever is higher. But these would represent the minimums that they would be paying to the city as part of their public benefit amount. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions that you have.
So this time I'll open the public comment out. Any member from the public like to come forward at this time?
Good evening, Council. This has been a long process. My name is Mark Yandow.
I am co-owner of Bang Mingo. The other co-owner, Ben Harris, the CEO, is also present in this room for any questions. I am also the property owner of 1780 Bell Lane, which is where the project will go. I just want to make a couple comments about the package. I mean, I'm willing to answer any question, but from an economic perspective, we're going to be hiring about 15 people at the dispensary up front. And we're looking to try to, based on the CUP and the conditional use, we're looking at having to be up and running on April 20th as our grand opening. So what we've got left, and we're glad to see the new police chief on, because what we have left right now, we've taken the project as far as we can without some direct interaction with the with staff to finish it the way we want it. But we're here for anything. We're looking very much forward to being in Atwater, and I am a resident of Atwater. And one of the things that's in the package, I like the idea of the sports program. We can see definitely supporting that type of thing. But back in 1990, I was issued a certificate from Atwater for donating one of my properties to the city police department for 3 years in the swaps determined area at no charge. That just kind of shows, how we will participate in the community.
Thank you.
If there's no questions, we'll sit down. Again, thank you for your support.
Any other members of the public like to come forward at this time?
John Motz, 2240 Fiesta Court. I didn't come tonight expecting, I didn't know why, I just came because I was invited. Thank you for the invitation.
You're welcome.
And because I came simply because I was invited and really haven't done my homework, I feel a little bit vulnerable to get up here and say, I hope we have taken a look at the big picture of of the can of worms that we're opening tonight. I understand we're financially strapped. I understand this is what is legal. I understand there may even be some money that comes back to help encourage youth to avoid drugs and alcohol. But at what cost to the integrity of our community? And I don't have the answers. I haven't been doing the research. But as leaders of our community, I'm challenging you, please take that very seriously, what we're doing. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any other members of the public like to come forward at this time?
Adam Reed, 1520 Fruitland. Thank you for the responses to my concerns. Once again, I would like to reiterate the same comments I had before. And it's great that everybody wants to talk about how we're going to have something going on, but if it's not in writing, it's just talk. I've advocated for this since the very beginning. It was originally part of it, and then it was taken out. We have to look out for our youth. If you look at all the levels and everybody that's going to get paid back through the state level, the state's putting the kids, they aren't putting them first. And if you look at the comments and how the city's handling this, the kids aren't being put first. I understand the city's financially strapped, but like Pastor Mott said, at what cost are we going to move forward with this? Even at $10,000 a month, I'm just throwing that number out there. It's $800 or $820-something, $10,000 a year towards the education program from each licensee. You're talking $820-something a month. It's really not that much, but it puts reoccurring funding that we know is going to be there every single year, that the youth is going to have a program for. And I mean, people like the Elks, if they still want to step forward, that'd be great too. But I strongly urge there to be something done and something being put in writing and something that's reoccurring, so that way we know. And maybe the schools, they have the kids. Maybe there's a different program. Maybe there's something else. I've just suggested that because they have all the children. And like I said, they're our first line of defense. They know what's going on at home. They know what's going on with the children. They spend a lot of time with them. So I hope that we start thinking about the youth. Thank you.
Thank you.
If that second business is going to sell it, what's the first one going to do?
Manufacture it.
Manufacture it? Does it have an odor?
That's
Or is it odorless? No odor?
Well, I could go like an hour in discussion on it. There'll be carbon filters. There's not supposed to be any off-gassing or odors from the
So the
grilling.
housing development over there where I live won't
Correct.
smell a thing?
It's typically in the conditional use permit that you can't smell it from outside the building. And that's where the carbon filters come in.
Okay.
Helen Amaranth, how close is this to that school that's tucked back in that corner over there behind?
Quarter mile, half mile.
Is it far enough away?
Services manager Parade, might be.
Mark, do you know the distance? As a crow flies, it's about 1,400 feet, isn't it?
Which one are we talking from Bang Bingo?
That,
Yeah.
That one that's tucked in the field that nobody knew went in.
Behind the highway patrol.
Yeah, it's a good third or quarter to that one on Sunset, I imagine we're talking about?
Yes.
Yeah, it's quite a distance away. The actual footage, I don't recall off the top of my head. Mr.
I think the
Yandel,
applicant
I know
has
Mr. Yandel has an
Mr.
actual...
Yandel, why don't you come up to the podium and you can...
Yeah.
It exceeds the required.
I believe it exceeds the required.
Hi, it's as measured by Golden Valley Engineering and Dwayne Andrews, it's 1,220 feet.
Just under a quarter mile.
Yes.
Thank you.
And the nearest R1 residence is 721 feet.
The location of this particular property behind Tractor Supply, I'm sure there's going to be those people who will be coming and going, so your ingress and egress will take you through that particular area right there in front of Starbucks and the other businesses. That becomes a very popular shortcut. Was a traffic study done on this to determine what the traffic load would be through that parking area? Because people are going to come in and go out that way. That's human nature, especially to go southbound on 99 or to cut the light. Was a study done on that? Because there's an awful lot of traffic there now at certain times of the day, and I just wonder how much this will impact it. Because looking at the fees these people have to pay leads me to believe they're going to have to move some serious product. I mean, it's quite a bit. So I just wondered if anybody had looked at that. I know there's a gate back there, and I don't know if that gate will now be closed because of that, or if it will remain open, or what that might entail. I just wondered. I didn't see anything, that's why I asked.
As you can sit down, I'll explain. As it moves forward, staff's reviewing. As they said, they got to meet with police department still. So generally, traffic study wouldn't be incorporated in that type of use, but staff's going to take those considerations in. That, like the obvious one you just pointed out, that everybody cuts through Panda, cuts through there, so it'd be the easier way. It'll be his responsibility to make sure he controls his traffic for his customers the best he can, and designate, a route of traffic and a route of travel. If it becomes a problem, then there'll be a condition that he'll have to come back to and address that.
And he is under conditional use, right?
Correct.
Okay.
So there's a lot of controls in place, but that's an obvious one that we are looking at that, because that was the first thing I asked was, how are they going to come and go?
And just for the record, when we looked at this as its staff, the use wouldn't be have any more impact than what was previously approved to go in that. So,
Right. I think what Mr. Lee was saying was just that if you've been out to that area, it's an easy cut through. We just got to make sure we work with the applicant and do that. Any more members of the public like to come forward at this time? Seeing none, I'll close the public comment. Bring it back to the dais. Ambrose?
I have none.
Raymond? Yeah, did you want to comment? I have to reopen public comment and continue it. I didn't see you step forward.
Aside from the issue that's on the board, do I take this time?
No, this item only. If there's another item that's about to be discussed next, you can speak.
It's a private. It's just an advisory to the council, but it has nothing to do
on
with
this. Nothing to do with this. No, not right now is not the time. Any other member like to come forward at this time? See none. Close. Bring it back to the dais. Raymond. Vera. Vieira? Kale?
No.
Right back to you, Cindy.
I was just verifying, it was 15, 25, and 40. And I thought it said 15, 25, and 4. So I just wanted to go back and double check that it wasn't getting smaller, it was getting in fact larger. I do want to make a comment, Adam. I do agree 100% that there needs to be some participation because of the way that we are moving forward with the cannabis. I am a strong believer that and true knowledge, cannabis is in our community. We're not getting rid of it, whether we legalize it and manage it or just let it be out there. Right now, the same amount is in our community and it's not being managed, watched, or overseen. Right now, we don't have any programs for the children. And I'm not saying we don't have any now, let's not get any. I'm agreeing with you 100% that we need to move forward. Right now, I think, is the time to get it up, start moving it forward with the knowledge and the commitment I think that the council has always had to move forward with some kind of education for the kids. It's hard tonight to say, okay, let's stop and put $800. We have no idea what that program even looks like. So I think our first step would be to maybe at the next meeting or in the very near future, put together some kind of an advisory committee or someone to say, okay, this is what we need to do. Let's contact the schools. But I do agree with you 100%. That's something that as a community we should be responsible for. I feel that the way we're moving forward, we are going to be able to keep a better eye, police and manage the cannabis that's already in our community, that's being sold, that the city is not benefiting from the tax revenue. I was raised in a very strict Christian home. We didn't. Cannabis was always considered a drug use to us, and it's not something that we agreed on or that was used in our home. Over the last year, we've been highly educated on the medical uses of cannabis and seen with our own eyes different times and different usage where it has been a medical benefit. So that's the reason that I'm pushing it forward. But I do want to say that as a council member, I have the same opinion that I agree with you that it is something and that we need to keep it on the forefront, that there is something for the kids moving forward.
Attorney White, you had a comment?
Yeah, I just want to address, because I want everybody to be operating with the same level of information. Most of you may not know, the Bureau of Cannabis Control for the state of California recently came out with a regulation that basically says that you can't stop the delivery of recreational or medical marijuana any place in California. So it doesn't matter if you're like Newman and you've prohibited it completely. Somebody from out of town can come in and there's nothing that you can do about it. So one of the things that's going on tonight, and one of the reasons for doing this, is to be able to make sure that we have our, if it's going to exist, there's a place that gives us an income stream to deal with the impacts that may or may not come from having cannabis in the community, because without those monies, we're working well for you're using your general fund budget, which effectively goes to pay your police officers and public works folks and everybody. So I will say that there's been a lot of fight with the cities, and hopefully there'll be some action taken very soon on that front to kind of preserve local control. But we're operating in a legal environment in which that exists. You can't stop it even if you wanted to.
So in layman terms, what he just said is the state of California lets anybody come into our community within city limits, sell cannabis. There's nothing we can do about it. As we codify these things, as we move forward, we're now monetizing the illegal activity that's going on and the illegal activity. So as we raise a concern about telling the state, we don't get any taxes, any monetary value when somebody, say, from San Diego drives all the way up here and sells a truckload of marijuana. So we're now taking control, being proactive with our community by codifying these things and being an active participant and actually pushing against the state of California, because we want local control. That's what you guys have all asked for. So that's the dumbed down version of what he just said.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Council, your pleasure.
Oh, you're looking for a motion?
Yes.
Oh, okay. I'll make a motion to waive the first reading and introduce ordinance number CS1003 approving a development agreement in a form approved by the city attorney with Bang Bingo LLC, Cannabis Business Plot Program, tracking number 12262-17, properly located at 1780 Bell Lane, Atwater, and authorize the city manager to execute the agreement. How was that?
Perfect.
I'm learning.
Need a second? Yeah. Oh, you got the second? Call for the...
No, we need a second.
Okay.
Second.
Call for the question. Motion by Kale, second by Ambrose.
Raymond.
Yes.
Kale.
Yes.
Vieira.
Yes.
Ambrose.
Yes.
Creighton.
Yes.
Motion passes.
City manager reports and updates. Resolution amending the City of Atwater classification plan and adopting salary schedule C-19 and determining the mechanism for delivery of information technology services. City Manager Waterman.
Mayor and council, before you tonight, this item actually amends the classification plan to include a new classification for IT manager and also makes a small change to the police chief position to correct a minor addition under essential functions of the job classification to emphasize the importance of the police chief working with the Human Resources Department and Director regarding all personnel matters, including investigations. I'm also asking that with amending the job classification, this adds an IT manager. Currently, we have a month-to-month professional services agreement with an IT TM Pros to provide services to the city, working both on-site and remotely on our desktop devices and servers with our network. This is not a consistent operation. We are more reactive than proactive, and by expanding this to make it an in-house position, this position would be able to help and assist in project management in areas of security, networks, communications, web development, maintenance support, and projects related to technology. There is a fiscal impact to this with a 12% increase, approximate 12% increase in costs associated with IT. However, this would be a full-time service to the city. We'd have a full-time this would be a salaried position. There would be no on-call or call-out time, no overtime. It would include emergency services without any additional pay, and would help address our current needs as well as future needs going forward. So staff is recommending the addition of this position. If council chooses, we can also, if they want to go another route, I would ask that we release a request for payment for proposals for contract services, if that's the direction that staff or council would like to take.
Thank you. At this time, open up to public comment.
Good evening. My name is David Kamen. This is Tom Leach. We're both residents of Atwater and with Mid-Valley IT. We're both here because we responded to the most recent RFP that went out in May and won the bid verbally. And our contract is actually quite good. We have actually just been awarded our 7th local city, the city of Riverbank. So we have a lot of experience in this area dealing with cities. And our proposal did include all of the services that you are proposing with a city manager with an IT director, but at about $100,000 less a year. And so we're kind of curious as to why that RFP that just went out a few months ago that completed is now being redone or being changed. And this is Tom. He's the owner of Mid-Valley IT, and he has something to say as well.
Yeah, it's like I said, we're residents of Atwater, and we have actually responded to the last 2 RFPs that have gone out for IT services. We've won them both, And so I have that same question as to why would we go back out to RFP again. Our services are all encompassing and include all of your emergency services, so the call outs that you were speaking of, for police cars, not talking back to dispatch or things of that nature, are all included. We have very extensive knowledge in working with police departments, working with body cams, working with police cars, dispatch. We do all of the IT for Riggs Ambulance, and to sort of put that into a little bit of perspective, so we do all of Riggs Ambulance. They have no full-time IT people on staff. So we actually manage them with our staff, and they get the benefit of not only having the kind of the on-site technical person that comes out, but then we do all of the budgeting for all of the cities with each department head, as well as with the city manager as well. So we'd like you to take that in consideration because we're really excited to move forward and work with the city of Atwater. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other members of the public like to come forward at this time regarding this item?
All kinds of questions tonight. In the agenda, you have technology IT manager. Would that be a standalone position, or would you also have to have a staff person help that manager as far as paperwork or anything else goes? And the other thing that kind of concerns me is any employee is going to come under CalPERS, and that seems to be a real problem with our city right now. And adding to that just doesn't make sense if it's not going to make it a whole heck of a lot better for the city. Of course, that's your decision, not mine. You're going to convince us that it will be a whole lot better. And so that would be the basis of my question, because that CalPERS expense keeps going. I mean, we all talk about OPEDs and everything else, so that would be my concern. So thanks.
Thank you. Any other members of the public like to come forward at this time? Seeing none, I'll close the public comment. Ms. Vieira?
Yeah, I had a question. Mid-Valley, when you did the RFP, did you come into the city and see all of our equipment? Have you seen our server and all of our outdated goodies?
Yes, ma'am. We're very well. We know this system very well here. We have been on the tour more than once. We know many people that have worked through the city. We have actually been through this several times with multiple city managers. So we do have a lot of information, yes.
So even prior to the two RFPs coming out, and I apologize, I don't remember his last name, Police Chief Petro?
We're going to keep this kind of short. You guys did get a tour of the...
Yes, we did.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, I have one more question. And I don't know, I didn't see the RFP, but if we were to go with your services, what is the term of your contract, and what happens if we get into a contract with you and we aren't happy with your services? And I think that's kind of what has happened before, is we've entered into contracts and literally pay them the money, but we don't get our services. And I know business-wise, I've worked with you before through a couple different mortgage companies. We have been very pleased with your service, but this is quite a bit bigger than that.
Absolutely, and I'm glad you asked that question. Every single client of ours and service contract that we have in place with those clients have an automatic 30-day out with no cancellation penalty. We believe in not keeping people locked into an agreement that they're not happy with, so we have an automatic out, 30 days notice, and you're out of the agreement, no questions asked.
Is that only the first 30 days or through the whole term?
No, through the whole term.
So a year and a half from now, if everybody gets tired and it starts slacking and we're like, hey, we're not happy, 30 days later, we're out.
That is correct.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you very much.
Any other members of the council want to comment? Raymond?
So what we're asking here is for one person to carry this whole load, right? So when they hit a roadblock, they're going to have assistants on standby. So it's kind of like the same thing with the in-house city attorney thing people talked about. You still have areas of expertise. It's the same with IT. And I'm afraid that this number doesn't cover what we're going to be really looking at. I know hopefully Mr. Ambrose can chime in, because he does some IT work for a living, but I just think you're putting a whole lot on one person's shoulders. They're not going to be able to do the whole thing. I don't know.
Were you going to...
If you want to respond back.
Yeah, why don't you go ahead and... let Danny go ahead.
I'm sorry, go ahead. Well, if there was a response, I would like to hear it first before I chime in.
Okay. Cale, do you have anything you want to say?
No, I'm interested in what Mr. Everett has to say, too.
Okay, so we're going to have to wait. We're going to let the city manager give her spiel on what's going on and why she's asking for this position.
So I appreciate all the concerns. Mr. Lee, you did voice a good concern as far as our PERS liability. This position would be coming at a different tier, which would reduce our liability. It also relieves staff of duties that right now we, because we're so short-staffed, are unable to do. It's going to be a project manager. They'll come in and take on these big projects that we hope to address. I agree that we probably would have to have like a hybrid where we do have even city engineers that have different specialized engineers. So by having a staff person addressing the issues on our day-to-day, we'd have somebody on a full-time basis. They would be able to address. We wouldn't have to wait for the IT to come in, or if they were able to do it remotely, it wouldn't stall business. We would be able to do it. We would also be able to move some projects forward that we do not have the staff to do. If there was a big issue, we would have to do a hybrid utilizing some of these IT companies. But having an in-house staff that is qualified and understands our infrastructure and can work with it along with the police department, and that's certified in what they need for the CLETs, that would be an important thing, as well as staff at the staffing level.
Ambrose, go ahead.
Okay, so like Councilman Raymond was saying, yeah, I work in the IT field, and I believe this is way too much for one person. VoIP system alone, you have to really specialize and spend a lot of time with that. So I understand that we have a lot of different projects that are going to revolve around IT. But if you're going to try to spread this one person real thin, you're never really going to get anything valuable out of this person.
Sierra?
Well, I agree, and then say our IT guy gets in a car accident, we have no backup. We really have put all of our eggs in one basket. I didn't realize there was such a substantial difference in that versus an RFP that had come in. $100,000 a year is quite a bit. And I don't know what those services recommend. Possibly we could meet somewhere in the middle and say maybe we could buy a bigger package from them, but still not be this high, not have our liabilities with retirement with that, and then have like we have with our attorney's office. We have someone that works HR. We have someone that works here. We have you have a specialty in each direction. Just my thought.
And taking in consideration that our current IT came in saying they could do it at this low cost, and it just kept growing. And currently they're at $157,000 last year, and we budgeted 80 this year, and they're already at 99 this year. And that again is only reactive. It's not proactive. They're here only when we have issues. They can't move forward with projects that we have that we need to complete and correct the issues that we have in our server room, for instance.
Raymond?
Oh, no, she just answered my question.
Ambrose?
So even bringing in an in-house person, the cost is still going to be high, because if you actually pay attention to the tech that we have here, a lot of it's really outdated, which means you're going to have to replace all of this, if not at once, and implement, and that's still going to be pretty bulky, price tag there. So
Two separate, but yes.
It's still going to, well, you're going
cost versus
yeah,
staff cost.
you're still going to have, it's going to take a while. It's not going to be a quick fix. So even if you hire a person later this month, we're probably still not looking at any improvements until mid-fiscal year next year. So I would say try to save some money if possible and go back out to different services and actually bring the recommendations that they have for tech and so forth to the council, and then see if we can squeeze money out somewhere to upgrade what we already have. Because if not, we are setting someone to fail. If they have to come out here for an emergency to work with PD at 4 in the morning and be back by noon to, sit into a conference call or so, you're going to really stretch this person thin.
Just before you make your decision too. Just keep in mind that this is going to be a full-time staff person. It's not going to be a person that's here to address an issue this week and again maybe in 2 weeks or next week. It's going to be a full-time staff person that we can schedule and get some projects scheduled and on kind of moving forward.
Okay. I'm going to make a comment real quick. Go ahead, Brian.
Have we looked at like cities that have an IT director and then what their cost is as well as having other companies on retainer, just to kind of get an idea of what we're looking at globally?
So the only one I can think of is Dixon. I will say that with the new body cam laws and how much interest that has taken, I do think that you're going to, those cities that don't have IT managers may be increasingly looking at it because of the volume of Public Record Act requests, body cam footage requests, and so on and so forth. So,
okay.
Well, what if, I mean,
well as PRA
just
requests.
an idea I was thinking is if we continue this item to the next
Well,
meeting.
before we
research.
go, I want to make my comment first, Brian, and then after that. So it's all about transparency, communicating with you guys out there and the community. How do we get here? So our IT guy we used to have now works in Merced as the planning director, and we had contracted out for IT services. We have, we'll admit it, our IT and Danny's seen, I've taken Danny on a tour of the entire facility here. We have outdated computers. We're running on empty on stuff because the city just hasn't had money, and we've been really good at making do with what we got. So that's how we got here. So we identified a problem. The city manager identified a problem. We know the IT companies have all told us, wow, this is some pretty old stuff. It's a mess. The rack system's a mess. The police cars don't have cameras. They don't have body cams yet. We couldn't even go there yet. And then we have all these other needs at City Hall. We're being pulled a million different directions. I'm giving you a history of how we got to this item tonight. So we're being told by staff, city manager, that we have a problem with IT. We primarily take care of PD first and foremost, keep that rolling because that's our public safety. If you've been back to the computer rack in the PD, we got a jerry-rigged air conditioning unit going into there. The rack system overheats. It's in the sergeant's room. It's a bunch of wires going together. It's a mess, but it's matured to this gigantic mess because we haven't had money or the ability or the time. When you have something at home that just keeps the 200-foot garden hose that doesn't get coiled up right, but it just gets drugged back to the hose bib, that's what we have. Picture our computer systems, just this big gnarly mess. We haven't budgeted and purchased hardware, as you guys would call it. And that's not because we don't want to. We want to. The IT company that's working with us, they're doing good. Mid-Valley's trying to do well. We can't be everything and do everything to everybody. And as we start maturing, the PD is going to start needing more services. When you have the body cam requirements, you have the 911 system, you have personnel director that needs a good computer system to be able to communicate. The other staff, the engineering department and planning department over here, they're doing work like we were doing back in 2004, 2005. Things are picking up. And they're running on these old desktop computers that are just chugging along, and they're way overtaxed. So we have a massive internal problem right now. And it's kind of hard for us to say, well, you know, the house is really dirty, but really what we have termites, and you can't hire a maid to fix the termites because the walls are falling in. So we're at a point right now that we don't not want to contract it out. We'd love to give you guys a thing and say, here you go. But we're at a point where we used to have to start buying hardware, and if you have somebody internal that can do more than just the basic little things, but can communicate on a daily basis to the police chief, to the personnel director, to the city engineer, and start rebuilding our system, we're going to be at a point where we're back to normal. We're not even there. We're down 60% as far as being normal with our computer systems at City Hall. And I will give anybody here or in the county a tour of our complete system and let you talk to our employees, because they'll be the first to tell you it's pretty bad. But they're making do with what we have. So this is an attempt, I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, by the city manager to bring in a full-time person to start identifying. We're going to have to hire somebody to identify what computers need to be replaced, move this from here to the courtyard. You're going to have a person that's here 24 hours a day, 8 hours a day, 5 days a week, to communicate with these guys. And then you build it up from there. And we're not going to lie to you. We probably will have to contract out some of the services after we repair what we have. And Lori's created a position, she's explained to me, I hope she's communicated to you guys on the dais, that this person just won't be an IT geek. This person will be able to help us with tonight's presentation on the overhead projector, the Facebook, Twitter, social media stuff that we don't even mess with. The website, which we have to upload our agendas on, that we get beat up on because our agendas aren't posted. You know how hard it is for us to fix the website agenda issue, and you guys have been complaining about this for years. We have to get a hold of them 2 or 3 days ahead of time. So there's a lot of things that are just not right, and by bringing a person in to help just get our house in order so that we can move on and start operating more efficiently, it's really important. And as a manager, she's identified this and she's brought it forward to you guys that we need somebody that's on staff to do this and to start correcting it and move forward. I'm not saying I'm against contracting things out or anything else. I think it's a balance, but I think you guys need to listen and ask a few more questions tonight before you make your decisions with the city manager. Brian?
So I think we're onto something, but we're not there. And I'm not comfortable moving forward funding this position today. But what I will do is compromise, and I'd be willing to make the motion to approve the position. It's basically a two-part issue, but not fund the position. That way we can have further discussion about it at a later date.
It's to you, council. What do you want to do? Vera?
I don't understand approving something but not funding it. It's still not there. I'm not convinced that what we have can be handled by one person. You have sick days, you have vacation days, you have reasons that they're out, and then we have all our eggs in one basket. I think we should, I'm not even suggesting we go back out to RFP. We've done that twice. We have someone who's come out ahead. I'd like to see the proposal or the contract that they're offering and maybe take a look at that and see, step that up a little bit and say, hey, we need someone 40 hours a week. What's that going to cost us? Or kind of try to meet in the middle. I do appreciate what city manager's done, but if that one person goes down or we reach a step that they can't fix, now we're bringing extra people in, and then before you know it, they need some backup here. They need it. I'm going to go with Danny. He knows the IT. He knows, or his opinion is this is too much for one person. So I'm going to agree with him.
Okay, so to clarify that we couldn't go modify it, we'd have to go back out to bid. You can't take something that went to bid and tweak it a little bit. So if we need clarification on what
Can
we're
we
trying
look at what went to bid and see what the proposal, I haven't seen what the proposal is. They may have proposed something that totally would meet our needs. I have no idea what it was.
We really shouldn't. We actually canceled that. So number one, I just want to dispel that nobody ever won.
Oh, okay.
If they would have won, they would be operating right now, and it would have been authorized by the council. It may be that they had, at the time that it was cut off, a very good proposal and maybe the most cost-effective proposal, but it was never awarded to them. We're still operating under an agreement that was awarded with another company.
Okay.
And the only RFP that I'm aware of that has existed in here, we pulled back because of the fact that we were in the middle of the contract and there was a misunderstanding at staff level about whether or not we could put out an RFP at that point in time, and we would have been in breach of our agreement with our existing IT provider.
Gotcha.
And that's why we had to pull it back, and it was never even to the date that people could have had final submissions when it was pulled back. And this isn't anything against them, but I just want to clear this air about some, having been picked and then not received the contract. You would have to go and recirculate it as an RFP if you were going to do it because of the value of the contract and the type of services that are being offered. The reason that I pulled my mic down is we're having a lot of conversation here about the IT position. This item covers a lot more, including the police chief, that needs to be looked at. So this goes well beyond like the IT manager. I do think that what council member, if you want to have more discussion on it, if you create a position and you never fund it, meaning that it exists on paper, so if you ever need it in the future and you have a salary schedule, you know how you budget it, is something that makes sense. But I don't want us to, for sake of the IT manager position, lose the other components that are within the resolution.
So that's the purpose of creating the position but not funding it. At least it's there. We can discuss it, manipulate it, make it work.
Correct.
I see. Okay.
So I think my question I have is, we have an opportunity for this to initiate the process to request proposals. If we assign a position and not fund it, do we eliminate those from getting those?
No.
Okay.
No. So you could do both. In other words, you could have a position that's not funded and then still decide to contract out. I will say, I need to go back. If the discussion is that you want to go out to an RFP, we should continue that aspect of the conversation. I don't know with our existing contract whether or not we can go out to another RFP at this point in time without being in breach of our existing contract. So I don't know the setting here right now whether or not that's an option that's available to us.
We're on a month-to-month.
Okay, Raymond?
I just wanted to remind everybody there's a motion on the floor.
Can you repeat the motion?
The motion was to approve the item, create the position, since it is a two-part issue, and not fund it, so we can have further discussion.
And you're talking about the IT manager.
The IT manager position, yes.
Okay. Do we have a second on that?
I'll second that with the understanding that it doesn't prevent us from going out to RFP if the other contract allows us to do so.
Legally, there's nothing. I'll go back and check. We'll
Okay.
agendize it. They're doing work in Riverbank. That's one of my other cities, so I'll be able to get it.
Okay. Then I will
I'll
second
be able to
that.
get the skinny.
Gotcha.
Okay. City Clerk, are you clear on the motion?
Yes.
Can you repeat the motion so we have it?
So he would like to create the position but not fund the position.
Of
Are we
IT
clear?
manager.
The IT manager position.
And approve it as is.
And approve as is.
So the motion is going to be the number one on our recommendation.
Yep. So just to be clear, we're adopting resolution number 3070-19, amending the City Council of Atwater classification plan and adopting salary schedule C-19 with designated modifications to be effective February 21st, 2019, with the stipulation that the IT technology position not be funded at this time.
Thank you.
Call for the question.
Does that represent your motion?
Yes.
Does that represent your second?
Motion by Raven, second by Vieira, right?
Yes.
Call for the question.
Vieira.
Yes.
Raymond.
Yes.
Ambrose.
The way it's said now, yes.
Kale.
Yes.
Creighton.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay, number 6, ratification of the police chief employment agreement. Recommendation by the City Council by motion to ratify the police chief employment agreement in a form approved by the city attorney with Michael Salvador, and authorize and direct the city manager to execute the agreement on behalf of the city. Open this up to public comment. Any member from the public like to come forward at this time? Seeing none, bring it back to the dais. Council, you have any
So
discussion?
just a little update. I know everybody knows the status that we've been in with the police chief. Staff initiated the recruitment process for the chief in November of 2018. A list of candidates was interviewed and ranked by external panel consisting of law enforcement professionals as well as members of the community. Second interviews were conducted by myself and a qualified candidate that comes to us with over 30 years law enforcement experience, comes from cities or agencies with situations similar to ours. And with that, I recommend council ratifying the Chief Michael Salvador's agreement with the city of Atwater as our new police chief.
Doug White, you had a comment?
Yeah, just real quickly, I know some people have brought to my attention the fact that the chief police position requires ratification by the city council. Just so we're all clear, approving the contract constitutes ratification. The police chief could not be hired without the city council approving the contract. So just want to make that clear for the record.
So in layman terms, again, city manager does all the hiring, interviewing, everything else. This is the first we've seen, or I've even met the candidate, and tonight we approve what the city manager brought forward in form of a contract of employment. That's what we're voting on.
Do you need a motion?
I do.
I would like to make a motion that the City Council ratify Police Chief Employment Agreement in the form approved by the City Attorney with Michael Salvador, and authorize and direct City Manager to execute the agreement on behalf of the city.
Second.
Motion by Vieira, second by Raymond. Call for the question.
Hale.
Yes.
Vieira.
Yes.
Raymond.
Yes.
Ambrose.
Yes.
Creighton.
Yes. Welcome aboard.
Motion passes.
Do you want to introduce that?
Yeah,
have
Chief.
Mr. Salvador here?
Chief, why don't you come on up here? Can you hear me on this? Okay. So tonight we have before you our new police chief, Mike Salvador. So he comes with a lot of experience. I call it tools in his toolbox. We're working on the cannabis thing. The cannabis for the city of Atwater is a big deal. It's going to be a revenue generator. We have a lot of education we need to do with the youth and other things. Mike's kind of on the forefront of this whole thing. Merced County's kind of late getting into the program, but he's going to be able to help guide us through that. And then just his law enforcement history, what he's done and where he's worked and the type of positions and things you've done. I'll let you share that a little bit tonight. But tonight's not like the welcoming aboard. We'll be back at the council meeting on the 21st. A formal deal. We'll pin the badge on him and everything else, and we'll have 25th. We'll have a reception. But I think it's important for you guys to see firsthand what we're doing as we're doing it. So why don't you give a few words here?
Well, thank you, Mayor, members of council. Thank you very much. Especially City Manager Waterman. We've had lots of conversations over the last couple of weeks about Atwater. Just a little bit about myself. I'm a 30-year veteran of law enforcement. I'm from the Central Valley. I started my career in my hometown of Kerman, and I've progressed through the ranks everywhere I've been. But the majority of my career I spent with the Madera County Sheriff's Office. I was their undersheriff when I left and went to the city of Coalinga as the police chief. And we're talking about cannabis tonight, and I got a kind of funny story about cannabis. If you'd have told me 10 years ago that I'd be speaking about cannabis to you in this venue, I'd have locked you all up, called ambulances for all of you, and I would have sent you to a mental health facility, because I spent a lot of time in the Western Sierras cutting this stuff and busting people and doing all that kind of thing. But to use a cliche, a funny thing happened to me on the way to the Coliseum. Well, a funny thing happened to me 90 days into my first tenure as police chief of the city of Coalinga. I got a 5-0 vote that said you're going to not only go down the cannabis road, but you're going to write the policies and procedures and the ordinances to make that happen. So me and the community development director took the next 9 months, and we put together a comprehensive set of ordinances and a comprehensive set of regulations and procedures that have led to the establishment of 4 viable businesses in the city of Coalinga. Cannabis is now the 5th largest employer in the city. So as I look at these items and I look at the issues that the cannabis businesses are going to deal with, maybe I can provide them a kind of a roadmap to get themselves into shape as far as with the state of California, which changes on a daily basis. I've had a chance to take a look at you from afar. I've been watching this position for the past year. And I can't, yes, I have seen those council meetings. Okay? And they didn't scare me away. I've had similar council meetings in the city of Coalinga. So what I see here is a city that is dealing with the financial repercussions of the closure of the base. I had those same issues in the city of Coalinga when we lost $1 million of general fund revenue overnight due to Proposition 47 and 57. They closed our return to custody facility, put $1 million hole in a $8 million general fund budget overnight, and when I took over as police chief, we were $700,000 in debt, just like the city of Atwater. So the debt doesn't scare me. Well, $700,000 is 10% of the general fund in the city of Coalinga. So the debt doesn't scare me. We put together a vision of public service and community service. Was able to negotiate a contract with our local school district for a fully funded police officer. They'd never had it. I had contracts with our junior college for a fully funded police officer. We were selected as one of 25 small cities in the country to roll out body cameras. So I got a federal grant to do that. Worked with our risk management authority. I'm a digger. If you have money, I will find it, and I will ask for it, and you will give it to me. So I'm not afraid of the political arena. I spent 6 years on the Madera Unified School District Board of Trustees. We negotiated a $25 million budget deficit, nearly closed a school. So when you have a high school gym of people lined up out in the rain, one in your head, because you're going to close a school that's been open for 100 years, you learn how to talk to people. So I hope to bring that here to Atwater. I'm all in. Tonight is only the beginning. Rome wasn't built in a day. But I've already got ideas on how we're going to improve customer service. These people at the dais are going to be very, very busy with me. Lori already knows. We're going to engage Sacramento regarding the police department's building. I watched 4 different projects in Fresno County gain state money to renovate their buildings. We're going to try. Okay? I will make this community one promise. If you ask me a question, I will answer it. You may not like the answer, but you'll know it's the truth. I don't pull any punches. I don't play any games. This police department, hopefully by the time I'm done with it, will be one of the finest police departments in the state of California. Because I don't know how to do it any other way. Okay, we're going to have a good time together because I refuse not to. To my troops, I'm coming. We're going to have a good time. We're going to do a lot of cool things. And I hope that this time next year, we'll start to see a different Atwater. One step at a time. Okay, we're going to have little wins. We're going to celebrate success. One of my first goals is to put an officer in this chamber, in front of this community, and give him an award. That's number one. And we're going to make that happen because that didn't happen a couple months ago. Okay? And I'm going to be its biggest cheerleader. And we're going to coin the phrase Atwater's finest. You look at them. And I hope to lead them. I hope to teach them. I hope to be their biggest cheerleader, bring them together, and bring us together, because it's us. right? We're in this together. Sacramento isn't going to help us. Okay? So I sit on 2 statewide committees, on Cal Chiefs Legislative Committee, and I'm also on Cal Chiefs Cannabis Legislative Committee. So that's put me on the front lines of the regulation of cannabis. So I'm really looking forward to working with you guys, get your businesses off the ground. And then finally, because I can be a little long-winded, finally, I hope to meet each and every one of you. You will see me in the downtown area. You'll see me at restaurants. You'll see me on the street. You'll see me walk, because I walk. Very successful in Coalinga. It's something that I did there. And you will always be able to get a hold of me. Call, leave a message. I call back. I return emails. And my office is always open. So again, I'd like to thank you, Mayor Creighton, and the council for approving the contract. I've got a lot of this move for me. Out of all the moves in 30 years, it's going to be the most bittersweet. I have a lot of friends in Coalinga, and they're not real happy to see me go. But I hope to make a lot more friends here in the city of Atwater, and we'll get off to a good start. And thank you for your time. Thank you for your consideration.
You're welcome. And welcome, Chief. Don't take off yet, because there's going to be some people that want to meet you and talk to you and hold you up the rest of the night. So.
While the mayor's
there's
wrapping
2 leads
up
here
too.
tonight. Which one are you talking about? Oh, okay. Okay.
So Mr. Salvador's initial hire date or original hire date will be February 21st. We will do a ceremonial oath of office and his pinning on the next council meeting, February 25th, and we invite you all.
Yeah, we want everybody to come down for that.
And we're going to have a coffee and introduce and meet the new police chief the following Tuesday morning.
Yep.
So we want the public to come and introduce yourselves and make them feel welcome.
Just one more thing. One of the first things I'm going to do as chief is I'm going to have breakfast in a different restaurant every first Tuesday of the month. And you know what? There wasn't many in Coalinga either. I went from place to place to place. But first Tuesday of every month, I'm going to have a thing called Breakfast of the Chiefs. It's something I did in Coalinga. It worked really, really well. I'm just going to sit in a restaurant at a big table, and you guys show up, have breakfast with me, and we'll talk about the issues of the day, and we'll go from there. Okay? I don't know about paying, but at least we can have coffee.
All right, thank you. Don't forget to stick around and talk to the chief afterwards.
I'll be here in the back.
So to recap what we just said as far as interacting with the police chief, the 25th will be when we officially pin his badge on. There'll be cookies and a nice reception we're going to hold. And then the following day, the following day, Tuesday morning, we're going to host here at the Chambers a coffee with the chief. So we'll have the Chamber of Commerce invited, business owners invited, and just come in and meet the chief and hang out and have a cup of coffee. And we're sure we have some donuts that day too. So,
yeah, I do eat those.
Yes. So, great. Thank you very much, Chief. Thank you, Council. Thank you, Atwater. Great job. Council matters. Number 7, discussion and possible action regarding dissolving the Community Development and Resource Commission. I'll let you want to take this?
So I am just looking for direction. I know that right now the CDRC Commission is an advisory board. They are a land use. For that action is primarily a planning commission. Right now the commission is combined of planning commission, traffic commission, and parks and recreation. And so I'm looking for direction from council if this is working, they want to continue this process, or if we're looking at separating.
Explain a lot of the developments going on. We've got a lot of.
We have a lot. Actually, the cannabis is taking the majority of it, and we do have a lot of businesses coming in that do require mostly the Planning Commission. I think originally that commission was developed as to a combination because of, which still is consistent today, lack of staffing. We were hearing that the other commissions weren't getting the same information, so by having them all as one, they were getting the same information at the same time. So that would have to be addressed as well.
I think the reason they went to the CDRC versus Planning Commission back originally was to fold them all together. We had multiple meetings. You had traffic, parks, and planning, and you had staff, and you had days, and you had meetings and all that, and everybody had to get agendas, and so it was complicated and cumbersome for staff. So they folded it into one. We didn't have very many projects, if any at all. I had nothing because I was on the Planning Commission back then, and there was never anybody in the audience. There was never any applications coming through. But things have changed. The economy's changed quite a bit. Two things. Housing's been fairly brisk right now. Staff saved a couple of development maps for housing here in Atwater to continue building. So we have staff burden with the constant applications of building permits and elevation changes, a lot of planning issues there. The cannabis industry is it's all planning. So with those two things, the CDRC's been dealing with 99.99% planning issues probably the last 2-3 years. It's really just kind of come to the forefront. Thank goodness. Things are doing really well. Planning is a very specific field, and we need to be able to target so we can move these projects through the counter, across staff's desk, and right back out again, and then get it to the Planning Commission so that we can move a little bit faster than the other communities and keep pace and do it correctly. With the addition, we dissolve this and we bring in the Planning Commission. There's also, it's not going to be just to do that to bring these others back. It's going to be also encompassed with training for the commissioners. We've lacked over the last several years due to lack of funds, not because of anybody's intention, but there's going to be a training component so that we make our planning commissioners the most professional that we can possibly do, and also have staff interact a little bit differently with them on a more professional level regarding projects and their role and other things. That the California League of Cities, Stephen Qualls and some other members are going to come to Atwater because we can't afford to go train there. But we're going to go through some mock planning commission meetings and stuff and get the new planning commission, comfortable in their role and be able to ask questions, because if you don't ask questions, you're not going to know, and if you don't know, you can't help us a lot. So we're going to make that body extremely professional. We'll probably idle the other traffic and parks for now until we get that up. We only have one person in Parks and Recs running the whole operation. So as we rebuild that department and get that on secure ground, then we can see introducing that back in. But what we're asking for is to go from the CDRC to specifically the Planning Commission so that we can be more successful.
So if I could, Mayor, just real quickly, just so for discussion, everybody knows, you're required to have something functioning as a planning commission. You can do it, the CDRC is doing something else, but you are legally required to have a planning commission. So. Right.
So I'm going to open it up for public comment, and also we have some planning commissioners, CDRC, it's a mouthful, CDRC, Community Development Resource Commission members here tonight. Mr. Murphy, I believe you're the chair?
I am currently the chair of the CDRC. Before I start my comments, from your description, it sounds like this is already a done deal. Because I understood this was just a discussion, but you sound like you've already made up your mind.
I personally would like to see a change to the positive so we can move things forward, but the decision has not been made.
Okay, so Jim Murphy, 262 Juniper, and yes, I am the current chair of the CDRC. Prior to the CDRC's formation, I was chair of the Parks and Rec. I've got over 20 years of volunteer service to our community, both for the city, the school district, and Merced College. So a few things I'd like to bring up. I understand all commissions and committees are at the direction of the council, which is as it should be. But I have seen a lot of changes that have gone on, and here are some of my observations. If we're going to have just one commission, That means, as a body, you're going to have to deal with traffic and parks and rec stuff. It's going to make your meetings longer. That's been tried before. The meetings get longer and longer, especially, like you said, since we're getting busy, because when we were busy, Parks and Rec, we had a lot of stuff going on. What happens is the council gets tired, the meetings get long, these things are of lower importance than PD and some other things. They don't get the attention they should, and they kind of get brushed aside. So that's why we had the 3 commissions initially. I was not in favor of combining them. I didn't even apply for the CDRC because I was so against it. However, if you're going to go to a planning commission only, usually those are in the middle of the day. So you're going to, for the most part, preclude people that work, that can't make it during the day. It's like we had a special meeting CDRC last week. I had to reschedule an entire week worth of work to be there, but I was there. So you're going to limit your pool of people on the planning commission to retirees or people that don't work, for the most part. You had mentioned bringing in training for a planning commission. Why can't we do that for our CDRCs we have right now? When we dissolved the other 3 commissions, a lot of the commissioners that we were volunteering their time were highly offended because they were basically told, your service is no longer required. Goodbye. After, with no warning, no nothing. As a body of the CDRC was not informed that this was even on the agenda. I had to hear about it through the rumor mill. I'm dismayed by that. I feel disrespected by that. It's your decision. You do what you want to do. But I don't see the purpose of eliminating the CDRC. If you want more training, you want us to focus on planning, do that. But you're going to have, at least in my opinion, a hard time fielding enough commissioners to do this. We only have 4 members now. If 1 member's missing, we don't have a quorum. So if you're going to offend current commissioners, at least by doing it the way you're doing, and having offended not this council, but prior pools of commissioners, how are we going to staff this? So that's my thoughts on it. Do you have any questions for me? I'd be glad to answer them.
Thank you. Any other members of the public like to come forward at this time?
Mary McWaters. I also sit on the commission. I agree with everything Jim said, but my thing is we should have been part of this or notified that something was going on. We all sit on this commission. We've been sitting on this commission, and we take it seriously. But it would have been nice had we been involved a little bit in the discussion of what was going on, just so that maybe we can contribute to this. But then to see that it's on the agenda and go, oh, we're going to dissolve the CDRC, that just looks like it. You guys are out of here. And as Jim said, we have a hard time getting enough volunteers to sit on it as it is. If you're going to go back to 3 commissions, that's really going to be difficult. But there are times there's traffic that needs to be dealt with. So the CDRC, it's been working okay, handling some issues like that. But that's all I have to say. It's just I wish we had been involved in the decision. Like I said, it does sound like you already made up your mind. So it is what it is. Thank you.
The one thing the councils do in all cities is you do the things that you feel that you want to do. You change the color of the chambers and you do various things and you appoint different committees and stuff. And so, you're well within your rights to do that. I'm not going to argue that point. But I just want to point out that the reason the CDRC was started in the first place was to consolidate the commissions so we had one room, one group of people, one person taking the meetings. It cut staff time down. It eliminated 3 commissions. We had 7 instead of 15. Now, right now you've got 4 commissioners on CDRC, and I don't know how many you have on Measure H. Obviously, you're having a difficult time populating your commissions. That ought to be the first thing that you see. The second thing is you save money. The third thing is if I come into the city and I have to go to 2 or 3 different meetings, that makes it a little more difficult for me to get my business done. It's much easier to come into a meeting where we can talk about the regular commission things on what I'm doing in a project, traffic, and Parks and Rec. Now, remember before, I've been around a few years, and before what went on was traffic wasn't getting anything from the Planning Commission on traffic, period. That happened multiple times. That's why we've ended up with some of the parking lot circuses we have in this town. Second thing is, I served on Parks and Rec, and I can remember when Pat Ferretta had to run to City Hall to sign off on plans for landscaping. And the question was, why didn't we have this at our meeting? Because it wasn't sent to us. And that happened multiple times. We changed that when Frank Petro found out. He started making sure the commissions received the information on what was going on so we could all hear it. And look around town, you'll see what happens when builders do what they want. No trees, improper landscaping, no form of replacing landscaping. Everything you said, Mayor, is true and can be done with the CDRC. You can bring in the training, you can up the communication, which has not been very good. We know that. I've been to enough meetings, quite a few of them, as a matter of fact. I think eliminating the CDRC is a mistake for those reasons. Also, like Jim pointed out, meetings at different times, and I think that creates a real problem. But in my personal opinion, it is underutilized, but it still is a functioning body and works well. And that's my opinion. Thanks.
Any other members of the public like to come forward at this time? Seeing none, bring it back to the council. Any discussion on the council? Sir, did you have you had a general, don't get up yet, you had a general comment that you wanted to make? At the beginning of the meeting, we opened it up for general comment. So right after 6 p.m., we do that. What's that? Yeah. So we'll see you at the next council meeting?
Well, no, it's this Saturday. It's a funeral march down Broadway.
Okay.
Maybe he can talk with Sergeant Novetsky in the back.
Yeah, why don't you speak with Sergeant Novetsky in the back, and then if it's something that you want to share and it's positive, maybe the police department could put it on their Facebook page or see what you can do there. But apologize for you not making it in time for that.
No, I thought it was at the end.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Okay, council? Any discussion here? I do want to make a couple of comments just to clarify some things that were said. First off, probably the biggest glaring thing in the room is communication. And we did communicate to the CDRC members. You all got an email. You were all notified that this was going to be on the agenda. We do communicate. There probably is a communication problem. We're not perfect. You guys aren't perfect, but you guys received emails. It was sent out by the city manager. She just informed me that that went out. But it's not whether we checked this box or didn't check that box. It goes back to what I said a little bit earlier, but the main thing is what we're trying to do is we're trying to move in a positive direction, positive progress. So our job as a board is to make sure staff has the tools they need to be able to be successful. We are successful with the developers and development that comes through here in projects. And if we can't do that, then we're not serving the needs of the community. There's an argument of you have a big body and then let's keep it the big body because it's easier that way because I like it. Or you don't like it, we think you don't like it, so you want to get rid of it. It's none of the above. There's no plot. There's no twist. We went to this basically to accommodate staff, and the city was in a constriction mode. It was constricting because so many things were going on. And the city manager made a call back then to create the CDRC. The traffic commission is not needed. The city engineer, the traffic engineer handle that. The traffic engineer and the traffic committee doesn't lay out parking lots. That's all done with planning and building and development at staff level. Those things we don't get to do. I know there's confusion that people think that on the commission, if I get on there, I get to pick where a stop sign goes or how a street goes. That's already all decided by staff during the development. So there's a lot of education that needs to be done, as we saw here tonight, and it's our job as a council to do that. Whether we meet at 6 p.m. at night or we meet at 10 a.m. or 3 p.m. in the day, I've sat here for the last 20 years, made lots of lots of planning commission meetings, Parks and Rec meetings. Nobody ever shows up unless they're on the agenda for a project. No community members come in and hang out. Haven't seen that. So our job is to evaluate, find out what the projects are going. So if we have developers coming in, wouldn't you think it'd be better to hold a planning commission meeting at 10 in the morning or 2 in the afternoon when they drive up from LA or over from Los Banos or wherever they come to build our projects, and they could bring their staff, and our staff's here. We don't have to pay anybody overtime. They're here during the day. So there's benefits to that. And then if you wait at night, maybe you get somebody that wants to come in, but they can't drive in because there's nobody to answer their questions at the planning commission because there's no staff here. So there's no perfect formula for what we're trying to do. We're doing the best we can with bringing it back in line like traditionally it's always been. And all the rest of the communities are going back to the planning commissions that folded theirs in. So you separate out and you do the work that's needed to move the development and move the city forward. So just wanted to make sure that you guys understood that. Viera? Yeah.
I know that there was some comments about the way it was on the agenda. I didn't know it was on the agenda until we received our agenda at the end of the week. I haven't made a decision. I'm kind of a little bit lost. I had a question as to, first of all, thank you for your service. I know what it's like to want to serve our community, and it's appreciated for you, for Mary, for the other people who want to serve. I'm not in any way have my mind, I don't want to get rid of anyone. If I think that we need to come together as a community and say, well, let's put our heads together. If it needs to be kind of what's the word I want? Tweaked. I don't think we're asking anybody to, are we just looking at kind of reorganizing what we've got, taking away some of their responsibilities and giving a new name? In my opinion, I'm no way saying go away. And I'm still not really sure how that would come together. Are we just wanting to take the volunteers that we currently have, or would we disperse everything and want to put together someone who would only be interested in serving on planning? And I don't know if the current CDRC members, are you interested in serving only planning, or is that your most unfavorite part and now you're losing your favorite part? So as far as me, my mind hasn't been made up because I'm still a little unsure of how it's all put together.
Thank you. Raymond?
I know for me, this is something that I campaigned on 4 years ago. I'd rather see a smaller group of 5 people that care about planning, focus on planning, and a group that cares about parks, focus on parks, and et cetera. I know Mr. Lee can attest to it. We lost some good people that were on the Parks Commission that never made it over to CDRC. And it's a shame that we have to keep making these changes. But I think a smaller group of more dedicated people to that issue is what's needed. It's going to help the city. And if we work on the communication, which seems to be the biggest problem here, that might change some things. And hopefully, if this does go forward, we don't lose jaded people, because that's not what we want. I just personally, I want to see more concentrated group focused on the issues they love: planning, parks, and traffic. So that's my 2 cents.
Thank you, Raymond. Council's Mr. Kale.
I'm kind of torn. I'm kind of like Cindy. I didn't do my due diligence after seeing this on our agenda to really look into it, and I appreciate you guys' remarks. I just think we need to move forward. I think Mr. Lee said this was a functioning body, and I've been to one meeting, so I don't know how much function you guys really have. So I'm really kind of torn too. But like I said, I think we need to move forward, and I'm thinking that if we reorganize, we could do a good job of moving forward. I think we can.
looking for direction. Amber, do you have a comment?
Yeah, is there any way that we could possibly push this back so we can get more information of what else can we do? Because, yeah, I get what you guys are saying, have a group of people focus on each item, but I understand, too, out of 30,000 residents, we're not going to get a lot of people to volunteer. You know, for one reason or another, they're not going to come out.
Well, I think you need to focus tonight on discussion because we're not executing anything tonight, so it's discussion. So the interpretation and emotions and everything, you know, there are a lot of accusations that we've already done. I'm not going to lie to you. I think this is a great idea. That's why I told you what I said. They're making their minds up. You guys are giving your guys' comment. That's why we're doing this back and forth. So I think we're in the discussion phase now, so don't give up talking about what we're trying to do. I think we should all continue speaking about it. That's what this form is. Don't cut yourselves off and then try to bring it next time when we have an action item before us. So this is your forum.
If I could, I think as staff, probably what we'd be looking for today is just the direction of whether or not to bring back an agenda item for action at a future date and time that would maybe create a planning commission and dissolve the CDRC or some other kind of hybrid of that. We would just want, again, it wouldn't do it by that action, but we would just be looking for feedback on what you would like to see to come back so that we have something to bring back.
And with that, like I said, that's what we're trying to get discussion, so don't shut down. Let's keep talking about. Raymond, go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to tell staff that's exactly what I would like to see come forward. Which one? Oh, bring it back to create the planning commission, dissolve the CDRC.
I closed the public comment, so I apologize for that. But Danny, you have anything more you want to contribute? John?
No, I'm good. I'm good with that idea.
I think that, you know, there's pros and cons to everything that we do. And what we need to do is a better job of communicating. Staff needs to articulate what we're doing, why we're trying to move forward. I'm not the city planner. I'm not the city engineer. I do know that this is what they want to make it better. Will we have a Parks and Traffic Commission right away? Probably not. We probably will have to idle those for a little while, and staff will continue making those decisions and working through those fields of expertise. We have one person in Parks Department, I believe, right? So you have a gutted department over there with not a lot going on, so it lies with the city planner and the city engineer to make a lot of decisions with the city council's input, but primarily staff is who we're leaning on this. So, Ms. Vieira?
Well, I do like the comments that Mr. Raymond stated. We're here to kind of get it out tonight, ask our questions, and so tonight tonight was just a comment, so we're not supposed to make.
Just discussion.
Just discussion. We can push it back to the next meeting, and that gives us all time to maybe talk with members, check what other cities are doing, see what works, do our research. I see what you're saying, a really good positive movement there, and then when I hear from the current CDRC members, I feel bad because the last thing I want to do is offend someone who's doing exactly what I'm trying to do, and that's to work with or serve our city. So hopefully we can all work together, and even with change is scary, but sometimes it's a good thing, and maybe together we can all change together for something positive without.
I agree, and just so you guys know, how many members are on the current CDRC? 4? No, I mean total for the body. 7? So there's 7. We barely have 4. So picture 7 members. We could barely get 4. We have a hard time getting some members to show up at all, or even on time. They have to delay the meetings from to show up to do what we're doing. It's difficult where we're at right now to keep that gigantic of a board going. So it's important to look at everything that we're doing. A body of 5, the majority's 3. We need 4 for 7. So it goes back to what you guys are saying. It may be hard to fill because we have 3 that resigned off
Paul,
the CDRC.
is the planning commission, is it a smaller commission, so it's easier to fill? So this is a
The planning commission
seven-member.
is smaller, and that's kind of what's forced us in this position, is that the big body's just imploding, so we need to shore up what we're doing and also work with staff. Staff needs...
So the city council sets the number, but
Okay.
historically, planning commissions typically run off 5. If you did nothing else tonight, it would probably be staff's minimum recommendation that you reduce the board sizes to 5 to reduce the challenges that you've had recruiting and having quorums potentially.
And that would reduce their responsibility of a quorum as well. So if they had a missing person, they would still have quorum and be able to move items forward quickly.
Yeah. So if I could, because I think I have a majority of the council in agreement, and so I just want to state what I perceived as council's direction to staff. So if I'm wrong, somebody could say something. But the direction is to bring back an item that would dissolve the CDRC and constitute a planning commission meeting. Staff can give different recommendations, but we're likely to come back with a recommendation that body have 5 members.
Okay. City council matters.
So that would happen whenever we can notice it. I don't think we can make the next meeting with the noticing requirements.
Okay. So back on this topic, what is the noticing requirements on this?
10 days.
10 days? So we'll bring it back for March?
First meeting that we can.
Okay. Okay, next item, city council matters. Kale? You have any comments, closing comments?
No. Oh, closing comment? Oh, sure. First, I'd like to welcome the Chief Salvador. We really look forward to your vision for Atwater. I think it will be exciting to see what you come up with, as well as how you're going to motivate our employees and see how you motivate them. So I'm really looking forward to it. And then you're welcome. And then I'd like to take this time to congratulate the Atwater High School girls wrestling team and the girls basketball team for winning the Central California Conference championship. I'd like to also congratulate 2 of the seniors on that girls basketball team, the twin sisters. I have their name here someplace. Valencia, who reached 1,000 points at Atwater High School. Both of them did. And that's an amazing thought. So I'd like you to please take time, if you have time tomorrow, and join me at Atwater High School and watch them play Modesto Christian at in the championship playoffs. And I just like to say this is amazing that they won the CCC the first time since the 1980s.
Wow.
So that's really good. So just go Falcons. That's it. That's all I have.
Thank you, Mr. Gale. Mr. Ambrose?
Well, first off, I want to say congrats to our soon-to-be new chief. I'll tell you the same thing I told Ms. Waterman up here. My mother's going to be very happy to see that Tom Selleck's running Atwater. But on a serious note, just a little bit on the IT front, why I say it was just too much. Just to give you guys a little bit of background, for those who don't know, I do work for the Merced City School District in the IT department. We have roughly 14 people to cover 22 sites. And just real quick, we have one network specialist that's supposed to control and run all of the servers and the networks infrastructure and so forth. Under him, he has 2 people that actually go out to the sites and do all the actual manual labor, cleaning up the server rooms, installing switches, access points, and so forth. Then when you go over to the phone systems, which is the VoIP, we have 2 guys that work with that. And I get where I work, we have a lot more than what the city has, but it's still a lot of work. Definitely want to say thank you for pointing out that we do need the help here. but we do need to do a little bit more research on how to get this done. And with that, I have nothing else. Oh, no, I take that back. In case she is watching, tonight's my sister-in-law's birthday, so happy birthday, Marjorie.
Raymond?
I really don't have too much. I would like to see on the next agenda for discussion and possible action adopting an ordinance for allowing food trucks in the city. Things have changed in the way of that business and industry, and I think we need to make some exceptions.
So can I ask, do you want that on the council, or you want that to go to CDRC? Because that would typically start there.
Follow the process. Follow the process. Follow the process.
Again,
the cheese
you
are
can't get them in the
delicious.
city.
Yeah. We'll run it through. We get their CDRC is going to have input on it, which is our version of a planning commission, traffic and parks. What else you got?
That's it.
Pierre?
So I'll start tonight by congratulating my son, Kause Chow. He's our third son that graduated from the Stanislaus County Regional Center Police Academy on Friday, and my husband got to pin yet another son. We do have one more son, and they cannot have him. I want to congratulate Chief Salvador. I love your attitude. I'm a firm believer that positivity breeds positivity. If your attitude is as contagious as I hope it is, our police department will be, I think, shining within a matter of months. I know that our officers are very hungry for what I believe you have to bring to our department. They've been long awaiting someone, I think, just like you over there. So I want to wish you a great career and safety and the best of luck. And to our police department, that goes out to them. I think every day I get on Facebook and I see yet another fallen officer. So as I sat in the audience and watched all of the new young men and women being badged and pinned on Friday, and I want to say they graduated either 28 or 32 out of that class. I can't remember. Those young men and women look so young and up there, and you just have to stop and think, before the year's open, probably will lose one of them. I've got 4 of them out there now, so my odds are high, and it's very, very scary. So I would encourage our community to please keep our first responders, our law enforcement, our fire, our EMTs, and everyone who puts their life on the line for us, to please keep them in your thoughts and prayers. And for the moms and wives out there, pray for we get some sleep once in a while, too. So anyway, congratulations, Chief.
Okay, it comes back to me. Pastor Motz, thank you very much for attending tonight. Thank you for the great prayer. I do believe that there's goodness in everyone here. I don't think that anybody that disagrees with me is doing it because they don't like me. I think they have an opinion. I think I'm the same way. I'm pretty opinionated, as you guys have all gotten to know me. So I enjoy that. I enjoy the conversation, and I enjoy the back and forth, and I enjoy trying to convince people to see where I'm coming from, and if I can see a different view from what you guys have to say, your opinions, they do matter. So I'll always listen, and I'll always consider what's going on. So I appreciate that. I want to thank you guys for your comments. The Tulare Farm Show starts tomorrow, goes through Thursday, Valentine's Day, it ends on Valentine's Day. I take him every year. We go every year. But this year she's going to ditch me and go with her school. So I'll meet my daughter from Cal Poly down there. But the Tulare Farm Show, if none of you guys know what that is, it's the biggest ag show in the world. It's already on. It starts tomorrow. But we'll just say it's going on today. But anyway, make it down there to Tulare. It's a great, great venue. Hundreds of thousands of people go down there. It's a sight to see. You cannot see it all in 2 days from end to end. And like you said, Valentine's Day is this Thursday. So make sure you guys take care of your loved one on Thursday and tell them you love them. Take them out to a nice steak and lobster dinner or down to Isabella's or Granny's or the Almond Tree or Josie's or Denny's or Jant's and
Taste of Tequila.
Taste of Tequila, our oldest restaurant in town, the cafe. I'm drawing a blank. Who? Brooks Ranch. Yeah, Brooks, our famous Brooks Ranch. And everybody else out there that's a restaurant owner or does food service in Atwater, please do business with our community first. And then also the Atwater High School girls, like John was talking about, what a great example of young people doing something great. Those girls are they're awesome. And I expect them to be here, John, for certificates, and you're going to be helping me give those out.
Absolutely.
I'm very proud of those girls. Next, our police chief. Thank you. My hat's off to you. And I love your comment about you've been watching us for a year and you still put on the boxing gloves and jumped in. So that means you're just a tough guy, and I like that. You're not afraid.
That's the high school basketball referee that I am on my other life. So, yeah, So.
No, I love that. And this community is going to welcome you with open arms. I've been approached by numerous people, probably 20 people minimum, from Merced, Atwater, Livingston, all the way to Turlock. People know you're here. They're excited for us. They're excited for the positivity you're going to be bringing and some change. I hope that your troops can keep up with you because you're a smart guy and you move quick. Yeah, so you guys better eat your Wheaties and keep up. But you got a great group of police officers here and clerical that work for you. You got the best. You just got to sharpen their skills. So congratulations. With that, I'd like to take a moment of silence. Cindy pointed something out that we need to take seriously. Our law enforcement, specifically in the United States of America, has been targeted the last 5 years, and it's just ridiculous, and it's got to stop. We as a community, we support our police officers 100%. I mean, there's no question. There's not a soul in this room that wouldn't stand next to you guys when you guys are in line of service, and we know that you guys protect us, and we don't take it for granted what you do because every night at dinner we see the news. So my hat's off to you. So I'm going to give a moment of silence for your peers and our police officers in the United States of America. Thank you. And that adjourns the meeting.